Welcome back. It's the Bald Bearded Bicyclist. We got a special treat for you guys. I've got Drew Scott here, teammate on project, and we are going to do the race recap for the Zoo Crit. It's right out of the gun. We had planned to make it hard, and Drew did just that. Drew, what were you thinking here?
Yeah, we lined up and there was some space on the front, so we got right to the front, and I pretty much told the guys around me, we knew them because we raced previously, and they asked what our strategy was, and I said I'm going to get to the top of the hill first, avoid the rain. There were a decent amount of new people riding, big group, so just wanted to split it up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, there were a lot of newer riders, and with the wet, and there's one pretty fast downhill, which turned out was actually very safe, but everyone was a little nervous about it. We didn't want to get caught behind a group grabbing brakes there. Also, just to point out this video, so in the left, top left corner, you can actually see Drew's power. So that's going to be, wherever he is on the course right now, and he's obviously front of the group, just ripping things apart right now and keeping it over 400, which is not something I can do, but I was happily tucked in the draft, and having a teammate is really huge in this kind of scenario. I didn't have to do as much work. I knew that everyone was chasing another red jersey, and I could just kind of hang back. I did want to make sure that I was near the front for this turn, so that was why I did a little bit of power there to a lot of these guys you saw kind of have the same thought, trying to get ahead here.
Yeah, you can see the eyed guys are both in those orange jerseys, the one right in front right now, and the blue jerseys as well. So they had 9 guys in a field of 30. So I wanted to split it up, make a gap, because the last thing I wanted was to come into a group sprint with 7 or 8 guys all on the same team together.
Drew, does somebody attack you there? Was that somebody... It took the front, actually, for a little bit? I didn't notice that during the race.
Yeah, one of the eyed guys came around me, and I kind of thought that he was trying to get a gap. And you can see Jacob, who's another really strong guy. He just catted up after this race.
So I was kind of hanging back, seeing who might jump this gap. As soon as I saw Jacob go around, I was like, okay, I got to be up there, because there is a possibility that this group could just rip apart, and I definitely don't want to be left on the wrong side of it, knowing all the strong guys I was keeping an eye on were ahead. So I'd Project and Jacob were really guys that we were keeping an eye on coming into this, and we knew that any break more than likely is going to have Drew in it. It's going to have at least one eyed guy, otherwise with their numbers they could bring something back. And we know that Jacob is going to try to get in any break. So, when I saw all of them up there, I was like, okay, I got to jump across, but something I was keeping an eye on. You can see there's a couple other guys who are keeping the pace up, and I wish that I had the back camera. Early season race, kind of forgot that I needed a little attachment to put it on there, so I'll have it on the next one. But for this one, it was tough, as I didn't see exactly when things shattered apart, but what we heard after was pretty much the second lap. We had already ripped things apart, so chances are this is the majority of the group here.
Yeah, every time we hit this hill, we hit it pretty hard, and I mean, you can see out of the 8-9 guys in front of Max right now, I think 5 of them are eyed guys. So our big target was to really hit that hill every time, make people pay. And knowing that this corner, especially when it's this wet, there was a river starting to form for the first couple laps before it started drying up. We knew the last thing that we wanted was to get caught and have a big group. So keeping it hot down there kind of slinkied everyone pretty fast.
It's kind of cool to watch your power versus my power, and your speed versus mine, just where you are in the group and how much speed you can maintain through that little downhill section, and then like how quick you get moving. This is a tailwind section, actually, kind of going into the finish straight and coming out of that turn, so it was always over 30 miles per hour here. which, you know, would make it tough for somebody to maybe get away on this section. But if timed right, we'll see how that might work out. But it was, yeah, you'd kind of fly down this section, and then on the uphill where you're already slowing down, we had the headwind. So all things that we were just kind of trying to factor in. And obviously it was very sloppy. It was like pouring rain. So apologize, some of these rain droplets are going to get on the lens, but it was also 40 degrees after this race. And we were shivering for about an hour nonstop, and that was fun, but you don't really feel it during the race, which is good.
Oh yeah, see, so right here I kind of get shut off by the eyed guy in front of me, and you can see me talking to Jacob. I apologize. We bumped. We were safe. We can both handle our bikes well, but I wanted to let him know, even though he's one of my keeping an eye out on this race, that I wasn't trying to hit him or anything. But yeah, there are just a wide variety of riders, so that and the wet and being cross-eyed for the first couple laps really played into the dynamics a lot throughout the race.
And it's to be expected. I mean, everybody's, like you said, on the limit, and you know, as long as everyone's paying attention, you know, no one's obviously trying to swerve or anything like that, but you know, don't cross wheels, and you know, you can take a little bit of a bump. It's not going to hurt anything. So yeah, always make sure that you're protecting your front wheel, and you'll be fine. So it looked like so Kelly Benefits had and I didn't know this at the beginning. They were really kind of had two guys here, and I didn't know that. So the guy on the front, Charlie, he was really racing with Nathan, who's in the Kelly Benefits jersey, who you see his second wheel. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know until like the last lap that they were actually riding together, which kind of screwed up something I did. I'll point it out later, but had we known that there was another real team, that definitely would have factored in a little bit. So yeah, I'd forgotten. I don't even know if I told you that they were working together. They Nathan told me that after the race, but
yeah, I never even put anything together that they would have been riding together. I knew Nathan was strong.
I think it's tough when, you know, I don't think there was a team listed under one of those riders, and if they're not wearing the same jersey, there's just no way for people to know. So it's, you know, maybe a little shady, but whatever. If you want to help out your friends, go for it. That's fine.
Yeah, so you can see, obviously not Nathan here, but we're already lapping guys. So the group split up pretty fast. There is a guy on a mountain bike, which all the power to him for doing that, but just kind of shows the wide variety of racers that we have here. They had a community event for new racers, getting them into it, which was good to see. And overall, everyone did a pretty good job of moving over. You can see we have a motorcycle up front, honking and making sure people are staying on the right, and they made a good announcement early and staying away from the
Here goes
corners.
Drew on the left here. I was actually surprised by how safe this all was. I mean, again, with all of the new riders, and like we said, this turn and it being in the wet, I was a little nervous, and I think maybe because it was wet, everyone was particularly respectful and safe, which was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that, so props to everybody.
Yeah, so right there was kind of the first time that I tried to put an attack in. I knew that I could handle the corner well. You can see I was taking it 27.
Yeah, he's a good bit away. You can see he's just coming out of the final turn right now. And Jacob did jump ahead. He hasn't quite bridged to him yet. So he's working hard, which is working in Drew's favor too. You know, he's making Jacob work just as hard as Drew was to get away there.
And you can see at the same time there's a pretty good gap between the speed. And really I'm just trying to I saw a bunch of people on the front that I knew were potential threats. And I knew that I could take that corner pretty confidently, and we had a tailwind coming in. So if I could get away, try to make them catch me, you know, just kind of make it more difficult for them. And then tire their legs down.
Yeah, back where I am, I just let everybody fill in because, you know, my thought is, you know, they clearly saw a red jersey go ahead. I've got no reason to chase. You see Drew's watts were well over 300 there for a bit, and I was doing barely 200, while these guys are definitely picking up the pace, and we're still moving 28. So another advantage to having a teammate here.
Yeah, so we still have a good gap here. It doesn't look like it's an uphill, but it is a pretty steady 4%.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's average 4%. The elevation on the video I don't think is correct, and I think it was maybe just because it's in this little zoo park. I don't know if it has the information correct, because some of these laps it says it jumps up to like 20%, and then other laps it says it stays at 0 the whole time, so kind of disregard that. This from about here up to about that little downhill section is an average of about 4%.
Yeah, so you can see that Jacob and I are putting in work.
Yeah, 500 watts up there.
Yeah, we're trying to get a good rotation. We both know that we want to break away from this field as quick as possible. So if we can ride away on them, that would be great. So we're trying a little attack, try to make people work.
Meanwhile, there's kind of a lot of chatter in my little pack, and Charlie on the front here, he was putting in a lot of work, doing a lot of hard pulls, and I could tell he was getting really frustrated that other people were not pulling through. And again, you've got a lot of eyed guys back here, and maybe it's just Cat 4 with the inexperience, but they should be taking up the front and putting in work, when they don't have a teammate in the break, and there's so many of them. I was going to kind of take the inside line there, and I kind of got a little nervous that I was going to get chopped, so I hit the brakes and had to catch up. But yeah, Drew and they're still pulling 30 miles per hour there, and on this stretch where we get the tailwind, we're on 31, but I think in general we're not going much faster than them.
Yeah, coming around this wide left turn, it doesn't look like it's much, but it's not really cambered at all. And when you're going around there at 28 miles an hour, you're really you're paying attention, because if you start swinging even a little wide in the wet, you really don't have any room for error. So it's just about really drilling it, keeping people up, making sure people are paying attention.
Yeah, and you could see Charlie on the front there trying to flick his elbow, and no one was pulling through, and kind of shaking his head. I know that feeling when it's an important move and you got to bring it back, and you're just not getting the help that you're anticipating. So props to him for just keeping the pace up, though.
Yeah, he rode hard.
I mean, you can see all these eye jerseys,
it's
because the orange and blue. I mean, pretty much everyone in this group, other than myself and Charlie and Nathan, are all eyed. Also, hey, props to this kid Sam, who's right in front of me here on the right. He pulled up to me after the race. I think he finished just behind me. He's 13 years old.
Wow.
And this was his first crit. And he's done a couple of road races, but geez, I mean, my daughter's 12, and I could not imagine her doing this.
That's nuts.
In a year. I think that's insane. So good for him.
That's impressive. Hopefully we see him with some more races.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can see people are just starting to struggle, even not being at the front. But some of these odd guys actually did take the front, so that's good. They're putting in a bit of work here. I think that's actually Sam, who I was just saying. He took the front. He's putting in some work. It's funny too, watching the speeds on that downhill. As people got more and more comfortable, it definitely incrementally the speed was going up a bit, which was fun. By the end of the race, I was having a blast bombing down that thing. It was still wet, but I just felt really, really comfortable.
Yeah, it was kind of drying out as the race went on. It was still wet and raining, but it wasn't. The road was starting to get a little more tacky, so you were able to take those some more speed. But if it was perfectly dry, you could absolutely fly through that corner. And they did a really good job of cleaning up the road. There were some parts of the road that were a little sketchy when we were first riding around, and they were doing everything to make sure that the road was free of debris. It was really nice asphalt. It was
Just
is
in
the
general,
place for
the
a ride.
course is just super cool, super smooth. I mean, it's a zoo, so I would have loved if the weather was nicer. I think my wife and daughter would have come out. We would have checked out the zoo afterwards, but maybe next year
Maybe
we'll be
some
able to-
mascots for next year. I want to see a tiger out there.
Get a little petting zoo set up in the middle. That'd be fun.
Yeah, so you can see here, Jacob and I finally got reeled back. So now we're just kind of back in the draft, just kind of recovering a little bit. Kind of looking at.
I think
who's
actually
here.
Jacob's still off the front actually, but you are back, and
Okay,
we're slowly bringing Jacob back because he's by himself now. He's very strong, but there's still a lot of race left, and my guess is that he eased off a little bit and wasn't fully committed after he lost Drew.
Yeah, we made an initial good snap and got a good gap, and then we kind of saw that we were getting reeled back a little bit, and I mean, we still have well over half the race left, so I think I kind of pulled it on this incline, try to recover a little bit, and then if he wanted to try to make the move, he was more than welcome to.
It's interesting on this climb, the bottom's kind of got a grade, and then it does actually flatten out a little bit, and then it picks up probably the steepest part, and then you come back down. So you can kind of see the speed fluctuate a little bit, like Drew's speed on that flat part. Again, that elevation is not correct. This is where it gets a little funky. But it was just, it was a cool course. I enjoyed it.
I was going to say, now I think I'm back on the front after recovering a little bit. Try to make sure that we bring Jacob back because he does have the power to get away if it's not a motivated group behind him.
Yeah, there's a couple other guys who are kind of getting towards the front. It looks like an eyed guy was maybe taking a little bit of a move. Or maybe that's Charlie again. I can't tell. This rain droplet right in the middle is kind of...
I think that is Charlie. Yeah, he kind of blends in with the orange and red.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I maybe could have done some counterattacks, and I just didn't feel like I really needed to based on how the race was going, but my heart rate barely got over low 160s for this. My max heart rate is like 182, so usually it's like 170s if I'm working really hard, and I didn't get anywhere near that. So it's kind of crazy. Just, it goes to show you that if you stay in the pack, you know when to put power down and when to hang out. Like, you don't need to be the strongest guy in the field. I'm just power wise way lower than a lot of the guys in this field, and still did pretty well. I mean, I won't spoil it, but yeah, I mean, smart racing can go a long way, so don't be discouraged if you don't have the biggest power numbers.
Yeah, I remember looking around here to see kind of how the pack was, and I was honestly, so Jacob just got brought back, he's on the front now, and I was surprised with how big the pack still was. We're coming up to just about halfway through. So right now, going through my head, I'm seeing all the orange and the blue, and I'm thinking we got to try to do something else to get a couple more people to snap if possible.
So we're on lap 8 of 19. And
which is a lot of laps. I didn't realize we did that many.
Yeah.
We did like 20 miles in 45 minutes.
Yeah, so it was just...
I think my average was over 26, which on a rainy course.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we were flying. I mean, again, we were going... This whole backstretch was usually over 30 miles per hour. Yeah, the course is just a little bit over a mile a lap. It's definitely... This was maybe one of the few true lulls in the race. Otherwise, there was power on pretty much the whole time. But it's starting to pick back up again.
Yeah, so this finish is kind of a false flat uphill finish at probably like a 2% grade. But definitely a thing to think about, and you can always tell the power kind of comes back right as people start to feel it kick back uphill.
Mm-hmm. This turn was pretty fun too when we were rolling.
Yeah,
I know you were saying earlier, like how it, in our warm up laps, like it doesn't really even feel like a corner, but when you're moving, you're leaning your bike over pretty far, but you can still pedal. We've gone the shorter crank route this year, so it makes me feel a lot more confident. I know Drew's got like 160s, so there's pretty much no corner that he could clip a pedal in, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So right now I'm on the front. I don't really know what I'm doing on the front because I'm not putting an attack in. And then
I think you were kind of soft pedaling too. You were on the front, but you weren't going. And that was why I think Charlie took the opportunity to attack on the left side there.
Yeah.
And that was smart. You didn't chase from the front. You just let people fill in and then slotted in on the back. I think that's exactly what you should have done there.
Yeah. Trying to get better, definitely. Managing when to pop up and snap and when not to. This was always kind of a weird part in the race. So this uphill, everyone kind of would stand up as if they were going to put power down. And then everyone kind of still stayed at the same power. So you can see I do like a little acceleration there. And all of a sudden I'm back on the front second wheel. I knew pretty much going into this corner every time. I just, with my experiences in the past, don't trust any wheel in front of me, especially on a wet course, and especially when I don't know people and I know that there's new people. So I kind of made that sacrifice pretty early that I was willing to put a little extra power in at the top if it meant that I was one of the first wheels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now, who's that?
I think that might be Nathan.
Yeah.
Off the front, Kelly Benefits.
Yeah, and I'm good with letting this go. I know that there's still a ton of eyed guys here, so I know that they'll want to bring that back. So just
and they do, which is
back.
great. Yeah, they actually do get on the front here and bring up the pace a little bit. Looks like there's this one rider too that I hadn't even seen the whole rest of the race. He must have been doing well, kind of tucking in this other orange kit, red bike. I didn't see him at all earlier, so he must have just been sitting on my wheel. I mean, it's smart. I mean, if you can just tuck and follow, and these other teams are gonna do the majority of the work. You just got to be careful because when a break does go, if you're all the way at the back, you're gonna have a lot of trouble trying to get to it.
Yeah, and the potential of dragging other people.
Yeah. So, a little bit of another lull here. I don't know if is somebody still off the front? The bike's pretty far.
I think it still might be Nathan up there. Because you can see his teammate right next to him in the back of the pack, just kind of peering out and watching and seeing when he...
Yeah, he's pulling off. He just pulled off, so
yeah.
I think he... And it seems like when we passed him, somebody put in a little surge there. Or it just naturally happened on the hill. But
yeah, it was a very surgy part of the race, for sure. Getting up that second little push, which it really wasn't much, but it was enough to burn your legs a little more.
Yeah. I just love watching this hill. I want to go do it again.
Yeah,
a little sketchy with all the people we're passing, like in this little area, which it gets a little tight in this corner, but
yeah, I want to say this was the second group, and yeah, you can see my biggest worry on a course like this is that they try to like mix over, like you just get confused in the race, but they did a pretty good job of staying away. It's also kind of tricky because we're kind of coming over to their side of the road and they're on the right side, so a little confusing, but overall everyone did a good job of holding their line and staying where they need to stay. So you can see right there, like they're starting to pick up to like stay on the back of our pack.
hearing brakes. You shouldn't really be hearing brakes here.
Yeah, I think it's just because
I think that might have actually been when I think Jacob might have been trying to pass me on the inside. I felt bad because I kind of took the inside and boxed him out a little bit, but I was just trying to hold my line there.
Yeah, especially on this turn, I feel like if there was any issues, this kind of long swinging turn, because everyone wants to be as far inside as possible.
And we couldn't go outside, obviously, because of the people we were passing too, so you kind of had to hold your line, stay inside.
And you can see, like, right now, it says that we're flat, but this was not a flat part of the race.
Not at all.
And
I mean, Drew's doing 700 watts.
Yeah, so I kind of saw Jacob trying to take a second part of the breakaway here. So I wanted to make sure to snap onto that. You know, we're kind of a little over halfway through the race. People might start to be getting fatigued. And just kind of checking everyone's legs, seeing if we can make another couple people fall off, make that selection a little bit easier later in the race.
I got a little nervous with this gap here, but Nathan seemed determined to close it, so I was all right with it. But it is getting to the point in the race where you can't really trust anybody else's legs. So if you see gaps starting to open, just don't wait too long before you make the decision to just do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think it was when I made that surge to get back on his wheel, I stood up and I couldn't feel anything from my knees down because it was 40 degrees.
Yeah,
we were sopping wet and my feet were just completely numb. I didn't put booties on because I didn't want them to get like bogged down and super wet, and I knew that once they're wet, there's nothing you can do to avoid it. So
I did the booties and they were very wet. My feet felt very, very heavy.
And I
didn't do the leg warmers, and it was probably a good decision, but I was freezing afterwards.
Yeah, it definitely took a while to warm up. And I will say, white socks, white shoes, both came out great.
I knew not to do the white socks.
I do them again. They look great. So yeah, so now we're all kind of back again. Just kind of playing the game.
You look like you're... I mean, you're not going too hard, but
I'm just
going
staying
a little bit off the front.
Yeah, I'm just staying on the front, just trying to keep the power. You know, I knew that I just did a push, and I didn't want to surge, but if I could keep the power up, make people hurt a little more.
So I thought about following Charlie there, and I kind of like half did, and then I didn't, because I figured if Pursuit was going to jump on his wheel, that I would follow them, but I didn't think that Charlie would be able to go solo, so I was just kind of waiting here on the wheel, like ready to go.
And you had that lapped rider right there, so you're going to kind of shoot a narrow gap going on the inside if Jacob wanted to come over. But yeah, so it was just a little surge, and then, you know, if you're confident getting up to the top of this hill and you're confident with that turn, no one was really taking that too aggressively, so It was definitely always a position where you could either push and make up ground or where others would potentially lose some ground.
The sun's peaking a little bit. This felt really good. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that maybe like 2 degree difference with the sun out feels so good. I love that one. It was like 27 miles per hour.
I was surprised with how wide people were going. I mean, you're on the inside, you're on the racing line where you should be, where you want to be, and no one was ever really in contention for the inside. Everyone was kind of trying to stay towards the outside.
When it was open, I was going inside and trying to carry it outside because of how much of a sweeper that was. You kind of made it one really big turn and could keep that speed up, but often that wasn't exactly available. But
yeah, so we're just kind of 7 to go and just managing it, just keeping the pace steady, making sure no one's getting too recovered. Right now I remember kind of thinking, seeing all the eyed guys that were still left and kind of thinking in my head, how are we going to attack this being only 2 people, where we give ourselves the best shot coming into the sprint, because we haven't seen too much effort from a lot of the guys in the pack. And the last thing that we wanted, which we talked about before the race, was getting to the end of the race and making sure that there isn't a big lead out train for the last lap that we're not able to get in on.
Yeah. I'm probably doing too much not being on a wheel here. There's really no reason for me to be like off to the side, but
you're also on the inside. I don't think it makes a huge difference here.
It's a 40% grade, so there's not much draft. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, so you can see we're just kind of watching wheels, seeing what people want to do. We're kind of seeing people are starting to pick the pace up. So I remember thinking, all right, people are still pretty fresh. Everyone's still got some legs, which I'm kind of surprised. But it was a strong group of guys here.
Yeah, I think this is you're sitting on the back here and thinking it might be time to do something. So I think this is, we'll see. No, maybe not. There you are. I think this is, I was thinking of the next lap or something.
Yeah, so this inside line that I just took was always wide open, and I never really understood it. I just went from the back of the pack to fourth wheel without really doing any more power, just kind of keeping it steady. So just picking up any little lines where everyone's just kind of following the leader, and you're like, well, is the leader really going the right way?
Well, I think that's kind of what I was saying earlier too about everyone being, maybe I said like respectful, but I think, maybe it's also an experience at the same time. But like no one was getting too close, so no one wanted to get too close to the edge of the road as well. I think people were just being maybe overly cautious, which I'm okay with in a wet race. Like I don't need to be aggressive. Yeah, I remember Drew yelling out that there was a bottle, so I appreciate that. I probably would have hit it.
Yeah, my biggest fear is when I see a bottle, not because if you see a bottle and you run it over, nothing's going to happen, but I'm worried about people snapping wheels and not holding their line and then causing a collision or anything. So I remember screaming bottle pretty loud to make sure everyone knew what was going on. And it looks like Nathan's kind of picking up the tempo on the front. I remember seeing him come around. He didn't come around too hot, but I could tell that he was trying to put in a little dig. And now we're lapping another group. Once again, super respectful. Everyone was doing a good job.
Yep.
The moto up front was beeping and making sure everyone knew that we were coming. And then that's half the battle, and the other half is people actually understanding and following it. But I was very happy with how that was handled.
So I think you slotted right in on the back there, or
yeah.
You were,
yeah, I came on the back, so I noticed that we've just been kind of holding like a steady tempo, and everyone on the front is still very motivated, so I'm not very comfortable with being on the back just because I personally can't respond, but right now I'm pretty comfortable trying to recover a little bit. I think this is the first time I'm under 200 watts.
There were so many little things where like I shot forward though, and I kept thinking like, should I attack? Like I just was carrying a lot of speed and the front slowed down, and I just was kind of like, I don't think there's really a need to, and so I didn't, but I was feeling really good. It was just weird because I was like, I could totally attack right now.
Yeah, you're at 155. You're looking good. I forgot my heart rate strap. I remembered everything. So if I'm going to forget anything, I'm glad it was a heart rate strap, but I think it would have been really interesting to see kind of how my heart rate was. Because I remember I was pretty fatigued at this point, but I still had some legs, so just trying to see how I can manage the effort that I have left.
So Jacob definitely started picking it up on the front there. And then this guy in the black was falling back a little bit, which I wasn't really sure if he was going to slot in or not, which kind of made it so I
was just caused
a little bit of a gap, but
we're moving here.
Yeah. Well, again, this is the tailwind section, so it does a little bit easier pick up the speed here, but I think Charlie might be on the front again, just trying to close this gap to Jacob and Ryan, who is in the eyed kit up there with Jacob.
Yeah, everyone was very motivated to stay in the lead pack, which you want in a race. But I was very surprised with everyone.
Knowing that Drew was not up here, I definitely was like, well, I got to stay up. As Charlie pulled off, I wanted to make sure that I was up here just in case. I didn't know what was going on back there. but lap 15 of 19, so we're getting close, and people are gonna start trying stuff.
People are definitely getting itchy.
This is where, all right, so yeah, big move's gonna come up. Drew's hanging out in the back, which is awesome, and because I'm near the front, I think, you know, that's where you should be. If you got two teammates, one should be near the back and one should be near the front, just keeping an eye on things, making sure nothing gets away. And we got Ide on the front doing a good pull.
Yeah, this hill was a tough hill. It was into a pretty stark headwind. And on top of that, the like steady 4% that it was, you could really put a burn in your legs if you were on the front or if you were able to get a gap there. People that were going to working up were going to have to work just as hard.
It's not crazy steep, but 19 times. I mean, every time we're
you were feeling it by the end, for sure. Yeah, like same thing. Like you're on the inside, you have the camber, like, and everyone's going pretty wide the whole way. I don't know if they were just worried about the little puddle there, but it was definitely the right move to stay on the inside there.
It's interesting, your speed, I don't know if maybe it's just the way that
I think it's a little off.
Yours calculates speed versus mine, but
yeah.
I know that I took that one really quick because I didn't even let a gap open, and yours was saying 30 miles per hour. So
yeah, there were some big discrepancies earlier.
So kind of things lull here. The Ide guy kind of slows down, starts soft pedaling, and nobody really wants to pull through. All of a sudden, you can see Drew's power spike like crazy. He comes from the back, and he was going 31 miles per hour when he passed us, who we were going like 24, and they took a while to decide whether they wanted to go. So then these guys go, and I'm thinking, well, that's the podium right there. There's 3 guys. I'm just gonna sit up, and I let them go, and we're passing these guys on the right, so I'm like, well, there's not much room for the guys behind me to pass.
Yeah.
So I'm just hanging out, and I'm trying to take the middle, and then I see these guys coming up quick, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna slot in and try to dissuade anybody from going. But I mean, Drew and Jacob hit it hard, and Ryan was right in Jacob's wheel. What were you thinking, Drew, when you decided to hit it there?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that there was 3 or 4 to go, so I knew if I made a big pull on the last lap, everyone was going to match it. But right here, I was thinking I have pretty good, steady power. The legs are still feeling in check, and I kind of wanted to make a move with a couple to go and just really try to check everyone's legs, and if it gets brought back, then it gets brought back. But I know that I had a good shot here. We were taking that straightaway really slow. I think that was by far the slowest that we were on that straightaway. So I was on the back, and I knew that I could get a really good speed difference going, which was going to be tough to make people respond. And then I even got the moto by surprise. I passed him and went around. And at this point, I was fully committed to the break. Right as I make this turnaround here, I still have a gap, but I kind of make the conscious effort to fall back so we have a good group of 3 to try to get 3 working together.
That's smart.
I knew Jacob was going to push hard, but Ryan, with having all the teammates still in the break, I kind of knew that he wasn't going to be doing too much, but I knew that Jacob and I would have our best chance here possible to try to make this stick, because if we can avoid a group sprint at all costs, we're going to do what we can to stay away. So pretty much from this point on, when I made that attack, and then especially here once we're caught, I mean, you can see I'm just putting power down, just trying to keep the tempo up, making sure that we don't get caught.
Meanwhile, things back here are pretty disorganized. I'm hanging back, just like letting people fill in. Charlie kind of attacked one to the front because there wasn't really a consistent. Sam put in a good pull, and then I think this black kid, I think this is David, he didn't really pull through, so then Charlie had to jump to the front, and it's just kind of like, no one really, they're not working together, and then I'm kind of sitting here trying to dissuade things, because as I get closer to the front, obviously I'm not going to pull, so then people have to work around that. So that worked out nicely. I mean, you can see that they're not too far in front of us right now. I mean, that's Drew's red kit and Jacob in the orange and yellow. I mean, they're not far. And then David kind of pulls way too hard through, so almost like he's trying to solo bridge. And then Nathan and Charlie fill that in nicely. But, you know, I think it might have actually benefited David to work hard with these guys rather than any one person trying to solo to you guys. But
I mean, I remember looking back here, I was checking my mirrors for sure, kind of seeing you guys really not far.
He's
at
close.
all.
I mean, if you look at where David is and where Ryan is, I mean, that is not a far gap right now. Yeah, he's on the highest grade, but
it's maybe 5 seconds, not even.
Yeah.
So right here, I knew once again we still have a break, and I want to hit this hard. So I'm taking it on the front, going as fast as I can through there, keeping the speed up. And then pretty much once we go here again, like Jacob and I kind of realized that we were going to be responsible for pulling through. So I'm trying to keep it above 4 as much as I can, just like burning everything that I have to keep it separated on this like flat / uphill and then into this kind of downhill. I know that I have more weight than Jacob, so I'm trying to keep the power on here and then also find the balance where on the uphill Jacob doesn't ride away from me as well.
So I was kind of looking to Nathan to jump on his wheel, and what I didn't know was, like I mentioned before, that they were working together. So he pretty much did what I did.
It was a good move by him.
No, it was great. It was great.
Yeah,
and it was basically what I did earlier for Drew. He just didn't jump on the wheel and dropped it, and then I was kind of like, oh, crap. But at the same time, I knew that other people were on my wheel, and if I tried to jump to Charlie right now, would I be bringing people up to possibly work together to close that gap on Drew and them? But looking back on it now, I think everybody who was strong enough in this group had already kind of burned themselves out trying to pull. So I maybe should have tried to jump to Charlie, and I could have done it a couple. And I actually turned. This is where I tell Nathan, oh, yeah, sorry, I can't help. I got a teammate up there. And he says, so do I. And I'm like, wait, what? So, like, yeah, that was like, wait, what?
Yeah, so now you can see the guys that are left are getting to the front to try to pull it back. And, I mean, I think you did the right move, not knowing that he was, like...
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I could have known. But, you know, I think what I could have done better is maybe there's a couple opportunities here. Once I know that you're safely away, I maybe had an opportunity to try to catch Charlie, and I waited too long. Spoiler alert. But yeah, for the most part, I was happy in that, like, look, I know that the three of them got away, so one extra guy did. That's better than me bringing the whole field up and possibly losing the podium.
Yeah, I mean, given the scenario, I think that was the right move. I think also not knowing that he was a teammate,
right,
it makes it a little trickier, and kind of like right here I think everyone's just kind of like confused right now as like who's up the road, who's coming back,
right,
like who's working for who. So it got pretty confusing at the end.
So again, looking back, this is where I should have attacked hard to try to catch Charlie, I think, but yeah, it is what it is. I waited a little bit longer just to be safe, and you know, you looking at Drew's power, I mean, he's still pushing 350 in their group, so I mean, you got to be close to the other side of the course right now.
Yeah, I think right now I remember coming around with 1 to go. And looking kind of
I actually can see you guys, the moto. So you're around this whole loop.
Yeah, so I knew that we had
the back side of the course.
I knew that we had enough of a gap, so I remember being on the front for a good part of that. And then Jacob coming around me really hard on this uphill.
So I was going to ask. So tell me about how your race finished out.
Yeah, so right here, this is where he comes around me, and I am breathing out of my butt. Like, I am trying so hard because Ryan's on Jacob's
I just
wheel.
see a 700 watts, yeah.
And he's trying to get away from me because I was on the front. And I was just doing everything I could to get back up to that wheel because I knew that I just had to get up that last little riser. And
there was just a lull here, and I saw it, and Sam grabbed at something, and I was like, well, he can't jump on, so I just hit it, and from here on out, I'm just pushing what I can. But Drew, you can finish out what you were.
No, yeah, that's a good move. Anytime you see someone grabbing for something on the last lap, that's always a good time to go. But yeah, so I pretty much do everything I can to get back onto Jacob and Ryan's wheel. And then we come through here, and I'm on the back. It's Jacob, Ryan, and then me. And we come through. We're on the bottom part of this turn. We hit the turn, and I go a little too early. I think at this point that I have a little more in my legs than I actually do. So you can see me trying, and 600 isn't going to do it. I got a good amount of gap on Jacob pretty
you're
fast.
holding 600, 700 for a while.
Yeah,
but,
I probably
should have. You must have gone too early.
I should have snapped
You're still holding that going.
Yeah, I should have snapped it a little more than I did, but like I said, this like uphill, I think I really got tricked on the uphill because I didn't really realize that it was also going uphill at the end. So you can see I surged, and then right here I'm trying to like climb back, and it just wasn't enough. Ryan came around me at the very end. It was a good move by him. I thought I didn't want to get boxed in by them if they both went wheel to wheel, so I wanted to get around them, and then he was able to close the gap.
So overall, I mean, with all the teammates that I'd have had, and just the big field, I mean, we had 2 people in the top 5, and I feel like I didn't really do much work, and I still got 5th place. So pretty lucky, and a great way to start the season. First real races on Project, so I was really happy with it and psyched to see Drew on the podium. So really fun, and hopefully they'll put this race on again next year.
Yeah, it was a promising start. Fun track.
Thanks, Drew, for coming and helping out with this.
Yeah,
and,
thanks for having. Always good to look at these.
We'll see you at the next one. It's going to be Marilla. I'm actually going to do Marilla Club race, and then there's the USAC race. So stay subscribed, and we'll see you at those. All right. Thanks a lot.